What do you do when your late father's pride and joy starts falling apart under your name and no one tells you why? That question had haunted Preston Granger for weeks. He hadn't built the 18-location diner chain from scratch, but he had inherited it 5 years ago after his father's sudden heart attack. Preston had a background in finance, not food service, but he'd done his best to keep the business running. He trusted his district managers, looked over reports, even held quarterly meetings with store managers. But lately, the numbers weren't adding up. Customer reviews tanked in 3 locations. 2 others had high employee turnover. And one store, location 12, a mid-sized diner in Ohio, suddenly had a spike in labor complaints, yet no formal HR reports. When Preston called the district manager, he got vague excuses about Gen Z work ethic and staffing shortages. He didn't buy it. So Preston did what his father once did. When things got cloudy, he went undercover. He grew out a beard, wore a cheap pair of glasses, and dressed in second-hand kitchen whites. The name tag read Pete. He told the manager he was a new part-time trainee transferred from a closed location in Indiana. The manager, a guy named Rick, didn't ask many questions. He barely looked Preston in the eye. "Don't slow us down," Rick had grunted. Dishes pile up fast. Preston had never set foot in this location before, and none of the staff had met the CEO in person. Most employees didn't even know what he looked like. It was a corporate chain, and he'd mostly stayed behind the scenes. The back kitchen was tight, loud, and humid. The moment Preston stepped in, he saw the problem. Rick barked at servers. He called line cooks useless when orders backed up. He threw a spoon across the kitchen when someone dropped a plate, and no one said a word. Preston stayed quiet, scrubbing pans and stacking trays. That's when he noticed the kid next to him, skinny, about 19, dark circles under his eyes, quiet but focused. His name tag read Jace. Jace barely spoke except to say, "Sink's good now," or "Watch your elbow." But he moved fast, cleaned faster, never complained. When the lunch rush hit and dishes came flooding in like a wave, Jace didn't flinch. He nodded at Preston and said, "I'll take the deep pans, you do the plates." Preston followed his lead. Hours passed. Rick never checked on them. The servers dumped trays without a word. At one point, when the sound of slammed drawers and yelled orders faded for a second, Jace leaned over and said, "You new here?" "Yeah, first shift," Preston replied. "You're doing all right," Jace said, giving a quick nod. "Most don't last a day." Preston raised an eyebrow. "Why's that?" Jace shrugged. "Rick." That was all he said. The dinner shift started to creep in. Preston's arms ached and his shirt clung to his back. He looked at the clock. He was supposed to clock out in 10 minutes. Jace rinsed the last stack of pans and checked the dish cart. "You heading out?" "Supposed to," Preston said. "You staying?" Jace hesitated. "I mean, they're down a guy for night shift. Marco's called out again. I can stay late if they need." "You're not scheduled," Jace shook his head. "Nah, but whatever, they're short. I can cover." Preston paused. "You don't mind?" Jace looked away. "Nah, I need the hours." That hit Preston harder than he expected. "You tell Rick." Jace gave a small laugh. "Man, Rick don't care. I'll just stay. He won't notice." Preston watched him grab a clean apron and start reloading the sink. A quiet dishwasher, offering to work extra hours. Not knowing he was talking to the owner of the company, Preston felt something tighten in his chest. This kid was invisible to everyone. But he was the one holding the kitchen together. He didn't sleep much that night. By the 3rd day, Preston had stopped thinking like a CEO and started thinking like a dishwasher. His shoulders burned from lifting bus tubs, the pads of his fingers puckered from hot rinse water, and his sleep came in short, restless bursts. But none of that surprised him. What did was how quickly he started noticing the cracks. There was no training. No safety walkthrough. No one told him where the fire extinguisher was or what to do if the grease trap overflowed. He only found out about the broken fridge in dry storage when the line cook swore under his breath and said, "Still not fixed," before tossing out an entire tray of spoiled ham. Preston kept his head down, but his ears open. It didn't take long to confirm what he'd suspected. Rick ran the place like a personal fiefdom. He delegated nothing, trusted no one, and made sure every employee knew they were replaceable. He overheard Rick cornering a hostess near the coat rack. "You wear that again, you're off the schedule. This is a family place. Look presentable." The girl, maybe 17, nodded quickly and avoided eye contact. Her uniform met code, but she wore a short cardigan over it, probably trying to stay warm in the drafty front area. Rick walked off without waiting for a reply. Preston clenched his jaw and turned back to the sink. Jace was rinsing sheet pans beside him, quiet as usual, but his jaw was tight. "You saw that?" Preston asked without looking up. "Yeah," Jace said. "Happens a lot. Does she complain?" Jace gave a small shake of his head. "She needs the paycheck." Preston nodded once, then focused on scrubbing charred cheese off a tray. He didn't speak again until the rush died down. That evening, while mopping behind the prep counter, Preston noticed the walk-in door was cracked open. He stepped inside to grab a box of lettuce and stopped short. A server named Lena stood with her back toward him, whispering into her phone. Her voice was low, urgent. "I can't leave yet. Rick already cut 2 people. He won't let me clock out if I go now. I know, Mom, but I can't lose this job. I'll figure something out for Jazz." She hung up quickly when she heard footsteps and turned, startled. Her face went pale. I wasn't," she started. Preston raised both hands. "Hey, I'm just grabbing ramen, not my business." Lena nodded, clearly embarrassed. She brushed past him, muttering thanks, and disappeared back into the kitchen. He exhaled slowly. That was the second employee he'd seen afraid to speak up. Later that night, after close, Preston offered to help Jace with the final deep clean. Rick had already left 30 minutes earlier, per usual. While they scrubbed the floor mats in the alley behind the building, Preston finally asked the question that had been sitting with him since day one. "You ever think about leaving?" Jace pushed his mop bucket forward and said, "Yeah. All the time." "What keeps you here?" "My little brother," Jace said. "I take care of him, got no one else. Rent's due every month. Lights need to stay on. That's it." Preston nodded. "You ever talk to corporate, report anything?" Jace chuckled under his breath, bitter. "Man, we don't even know who corporate is. Emails go to some inbox no one checks. I sent something once. Never heard back. About Rick. About the freezer door that almost broke my wrist last winter." He pulled up his sleeve and showed a faint scar across the top of his hand. "Rick said I should have moved faster." Preston stared at it for a moment, then said, "You deserve better." Jace gave a soft laugh. "We all do, but no one's gonna fix it. They just hire a new guy when someone quits. That's the system." Preston didn't sleep that night either. The next morning he arrived early. The prep cook hadn't shown up, so Rick angrily shoved a stack of onions toward him. "Slice these. 1/4 inch, don't mess it up." Rick snapped. "I'm dish," Preston said. Rick narrowed his eyes. "You're whatever I tell you to be." "Start cutting." Preston grabbed a knife and started slicing. Behind him, he heard Rick barking at Lena about her side work checklist. "You think this is optional? You think I'm paying you to stand there?" Lena's face was blank, her eyes distant. She said nothing, just grabbed the sanitizer bottle and turned away. Preston caught her glance as she passed. There was nothing in it, no spark, just resignation. He turned back to the onions, hands trembling slightly. At break, Preston stepped outside for air. Jace joined him, still wiping grease from his wrists. "You all right?" Jace asked, just frustrated. "You get used to it." "That's the problem," Preston said quietly. That night, everything boiled over. A new server named Devon was on shift. He was maybe 21, tall, soft-spoken, and clearly still learning the ropes. During the dinner rush, he accidentally put in a double order for a table. The kitchen was already behind, and Rick exploded. "You think you're doing charity work here?" Rick shouted loud enough for customers to turn their heads. "You cost us a $30 mistake. You think we've got money to waste?" "I'm sorry," Devon said, voice shaking. "I can fix it. You're damn right you'll fix it. You're staying late and I'm docking your tips for that table." "That's not legal," Devon started. "You want to test me? You'll be off the schedule so fast your shoes won't touch the ground. Preston's heart pounded. The room was dead silent, then Lena stepped forward. You can't do that. Rick spun toward her. Excuse me, you can't dock tips, that's theft. Rick's face flushed deep red. You want off the schedule too? Preston stepped between them before Rick could say another word. That's enough. Rick blinked. What? I said that's enough. Rick scoffed. Who the hell do you think you are? Preston pulled the glasses off. The beard itched. He'd wanted to wait until the end of the week, but he couldn't let this continue. Not another minute. My name is Preston Granger. My father built this company. And I own it now. The silence was deafening. Rick opened his mouth, but no words came out. Preston turned to Lena. You've done nothing wrong. Go finish your shift. You're safe. Then he looked at Devon. Ignore anything he said. You're not paying for that meal. Take a break if you need it. Finally, he turned back to Rick. You're done here. Effective immediately. You will not step foot back into this kitchen. I'll have someone collect your keys. Rick tried to protest, but Preston raised a hand. You've humiliated staff in front of customers. You've broken labor laws. You've created a hostile work environment, and you've done it while hiding behind my last name. Not anymore. Rick stared at him, stunned, then stormed out without another word. Preston turned to the rest of the room. I'm staying through the weekend to meet with every one of you, one-on-one. We're going to fix this. He caught Jace's eye across the kitchen. For the first time, the kid looked shocked. Preston gave him a nod, not a thank you, not a smile, just a nod that said, I saw it, all of it. And now, everything changes. Preston arrived early the next morning, long before the first prep cook. The sky was still a dull gray and frost clung to the edge of the back door. Inside, the kitchen lights buzzed faintly, the whole place still and quiet for the first time since he'd stepped foot in it. He moved through the space slowly, taking in the details he hadn't noticed while working burnt scorch marks near the fryer, a broken tile near the cooler, a grease trap lid that didn't fully shut. He wrote each one down. By 7, the first employees began trickling in. None of them said much at first. A few gave cautious nods. Others avoided eye contact entirely. Preston didn't blame them. The night before had left everyone rattled. Jace walked in last, duffel bag slung over his shoulder. Preston noticed his usual calm was gone. He looked unsure, like he wasn't sure if he was supposed to be there at all. I covered your shift today, Preston said. You're not working, Jace blinked. I didn't ask for that, I know, but you've been running doubles all week. Sit down. You're having breakfast with me, Jace hesitated. Is this like a meeting? No, it's eggs and coffee, that's it. Jace looked at the others, then slowly nodded. Preston led him to a booth in the back, away from the kitchen. A server one Preston recognized from his first shift brought over 2 mugs of coffee without having to be asked. She didn't say anything, but her hand lingered just long enough for Preston to catch her glance. It was the first time she looked at him with something other than fatigue. Jace stirred his cup slowly. So, you just walk in, fire the boss, and now you're here running the place? I never meant to run it, Preston said. I just wanted to see what was really happening. I didn't even know we had an owner, Jace said. We thought it was all automated. Like a board or something. Not anymore, Preston said. What Rick did, what he let happen here isn't going to continue. Jace didn't answer right away. He picked at the corner of his paper napkin. You're not going to forget about this place once you leave. No, Preston said. That's why I'm still sitting here. Jace leaned back a little, still guarded. Can I ask something? Anything? You really didn't know how bad it was. I had reports, Preston said. But those don't show you the whole picture. I thought we had systems to catch this kind of thing. Turns out we didn't, or maybe we did and the wrong people were in charge of them. Jace exhaled through his nose. I thought about quitting last month, but the new guy in nights couldn't keep up and I didn't want to leave him hanging. That's not your problem to fix, Preston said. That's mine. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Jace asked, so, what now? Preston didn't answer right away. He looked around the dining room. Half the tables were still empty, but the few occupied ones were already being served. No one shouted, no one looked rushed. It was the first calm shift he'd seen. "We start over," Preston said. A few hours later, he gathered the full team in the dining space after breakfast service ended. No uniforms, no hierarchy, just a circle of chairs and a whiteboard he rolled in from the office. "Before we talk about what's next, I want to hear from you," he said. "This isn't a performance review, no one's in trouble, I just want the truth." There was a long pause, then a hand went up from Lena. "Do we actually have an HR department?" she asked. "Yes," Preston said. "But I'm replacing the person overseeing it, effective today." Lena nodded slowly. Then, quietly, she added, "I stopped reporting things a while ago. I didn't think anyone was listening." "They weren't," Preston said. "That ends now." Next came Devon, who shifted awkwardly in his seat. "I'm new," he said, "but it felt like we weren't allowed to mess up, like even if you owned it, you still got punished." "You're allowed to make mistakes," Preston said. "What matters is how we handle them. That goes for me too." A prep cook named Roser raised her hand next. "We don't get 10-minute breaks. We don't get any breaks unless we sneak them." Preston looked at the floor manager, a woman named Denise who had remained mostly silent. "That true?" he asked. She hesitated, then said, "Rick didn't allow it. Said we didn't need it if we weren't full capacity." Preston nodded once. "Starting today, you're following state guidelines for rest periods. If we're understaffed, we fix the schedule. We don't break labor law." Denise gave a small nod. One by one, more voices joined in. A busser talked about being asked to clean the men's restroom with no gloves. A server mentioned being told to buy her own notepads and pens. A line cook described being denied overtime pay when he covered emergency shifts. Preston wrote it all down. Every word. After the meeting, he asked Denise to stay behind. She stood near the front counter, arms crossed, unsure of her place now. "You were quiet." I didn't know what to say. "You've been here the longest," Preston said. "You saw what was happening. Why didn't you speak up?" Denise looked away. "I did. Once. Rick told me if I brought it up again, he'd write me up for insubordination. You didn't have to listen to him." "I've got a daughter in college," she said. "I needed the job." Preston studied her for a moment. "Do you want to stay?" Denise blinked. "What? Do you want to stay and help rebuild this place, or do you want out?" She didn't speak for a moment. Then she said, "I want to stay. I need to know it's going to be different. It will be. But I need people who are willing to speak up. Even when it's uncomfortable." "I can do that," she said. "Then you're staying. But from now on, you answer directly to me." That afternoon, Preston met with a regional HR rep and brought in a third-party compliance officer to review the location's labor practices. Every staff member was given a new onboarding packet, a direct hotline number, and a form to document any past issues they hadn't reported. Preston promised that every submission would be reviewed by him personally. He didn't stop there. The next morning, he returned with a construction foreman and a maintenance team. The faulty fridge was replaced. The tile near the cooler was repaired. The exhaust fan over the line, something that had barely worked before, was replaced entirely. The back alley was cleaned and fitted with proper lighting. By the end of the week, something had shifted. People started staying after their shifts, not because they had to, but because they didn't feel desperate to leave. Jokes returned to the kitchen. The radio, which had been kept off under Rick, played quietly in the background. On Sunday, Jace walked in during the afternoon lull. He wasn't scheduled. "You're off today," Preston said. "I know," Jace said. "Just wanted to see if you needed anything." Preston raised an eyebrow. "You came in on your day off," Jace shrugged. "Didn't have much else planned." Preston handed him a clipboard. "Actually, I do need something. I'm building a new training guide. I want your input on it. Make sure it makes sense from the back-of-house perspective." Jace took the clipboard, surprised. "You want me to help with policy?" "I want the people doing the work to help write the rules," Preston said. "That's how we don't lose track of what matters." Jace nodded slowly. "All right. I'm in." And for the first time since his father passed, Preston felt like the company was finally becoming something worth inheriting. The following Monday began with a clipboard, a staff meeting, and a quiet shift in tone that Preston had been working toward since the moment he walked through the back door as Pete. In the dining area, chairs were pulled from their usual tight rows and set in a loose semicircle. Preston stood at the front, not behind a podium or counter but beside the coffee station where floor staff usually prepped silverware. No uniforms today, just people and names. Denise stood beside him, arms at her sides, no longer stiff with hesitation. "This isn't a one-time fix," Preston began. "It's a reset, but I'm not the one who's going to make this work. You are." He handed a sheet to each person, a blank schedule grid with their name at the top. "Fill these out by end of day. Tell me what hours you can work, what hours you need off, and how many shifts you want. No one will be punished for needing fewer hours. If anything looks off, we'll talk one-on-one." Lena raised her hand. "What about covering? Like if someone calls out, we build a float list. Volunteers only, extra pay, no pressure." Jace, seated near the back, leaned forward slightly. "And if someone's always calling out, we track it. Fairly. If someone's unavailable more than they're available, they'll be moved off the schedule until they're ready to commit." No one pushed back. For the first time, the room didn't feel like it was waiting to collapse under the weight of silence. After the meeting, Preston walked the floor. Not looking for flaws, he'd done that already, but to observe how people adjusted when the pressure shifted. Rosa, the prep cook, was reorganizing the dry shelf with a focus he hadn't seen before. Devin was helping a new server, gently walking her through table order input, his voice calm and measured. The first test came at noon. A party of 12 walked in unannounced, 2 families with children, all looking hungry and impatient. Under Rick, that would have meant chaos. Today, Denise stepped in without being asked. She shifted 2 tables together, flagged Lena for backup, and looped the kitchen in before anyone even sat down. No raised voices, no slammed plates. Preston watched from the corner, his arms folded, not as a boss, just as a witness. After the rush, he found Jace restocking condiments near the beverage station. His sleeves were rolled, revealing a thin scrape on his forearm. "You get that today?" Preston asked. "Yeah, corner of the sink still sharp, I keep forgetting." "I'll have maintenance file it down tomorrow. I can do it." "No," Preston said. "You're not patching up the building on your day off." Jace leaned slightly against the counter. "So what's your plan once things settle down? You heading back to wherever you came from?" "I'll be here 3 days a week. Not full shifts, but I want eyes on the floor. And I'm moving our district operations office to a building 1 block over." Jace blinked. "Seriously? If I can't walk to a location I'm responsible for, I shouldn't be running it." Jace nodded slowly, as if testing whether the words were meant to impress or to mean something. When Preston didn't fill the silence with justification, he just said, "All right." The next shift brought its own challenge. A new hire named Darren arrived 15 minutes late for his first kitchen shift. He didn't apologize. When Denise asked him to start on prep, he rolled his eyes and muttered something under his breath. Preston let it go for the moment. By mid-shift, Darren had left the fryer unattended twice, ignored 2 direct requests from Rosa to help restock, and was caught texting behind the service window. When Devin reminded him to put his phone away, Darren laughed and said, "Relax, it's not that serious." Preston stepped in. He motioned Darren outside behind the cafe near the dumpsters. No audience, just a conversation. "You don't want to be here," Preston said. "I didn't say that," Darren replied. "You said it with every move since you walked in." Darren shrugged but didn't deny it. "This place is rebuilding," Preston said. "And right now, we can't afford someone who shows up late, ignores coworkers, and treats the job like a joke. I thought this was just a dishwasher gig. It's a team gig, you're not part of it. So that's it, I'm out. You're done here," Preston said. "Effective now." Darren scoffed and walked off without another word. Preston re-entered through the back, washed his hands, and returned to the sink. Jace was already there, filling the spot Darren had left behind without being asked. "You didn't have to cover that," Preston said. "I didn't want Rosa falling behind." Preston nodded once. "I'll buy you lunch." "You don't have to, I know," Preston said. But I want to. That evening, after close, Denise sat in the office with Preston. The room still smelled faintly of floor cleaner and lemon oil. "I didn't think you'd actually fire someone on the spot," she said. "It's not about being harsh, it's about being fair," she nodded. "It's working, but people are still waiting for the other shoe to drop. I get it. You plan on doing this at other locations, one at a time." Quietly, Denise leaned back in her chair. "You know, when your dad used to visit, he'd bring a notepad. He'd sit in that exact chair and just ask people what they needed. I didn't know that. He stopped coming after the third location opened. Said it was too much." Preston looked down at the desk. "I don't blame him. Growth makes you blind if you let it. You didn't let it." "Not in time," Preston said. She studied him for a long moment, then stood. "You're not like him." "That's not an insult. I know." He stayed behind after she left, going over the new training materials. The language was different now, plain, direct, human, no corporate fluff. Jace's suggestions were in red ink along the margins. Preston kept everyone. The next week brought inspections, real ones. He brought in a third-party safety auditor, a payroll reviewer, and a former labor attorney to walk the building and interview staff, not for optics, for truth. When the reports came back, they confirmed what Preston already knew. Things had been broken. But now they weren't. The final step came on a Thursday, 3 weeks after Rick's dismissal. Preston closed the store for 2 hours between lunch and dinner. Every employee was paid for the time. He stood behind the counter and handed out sealed envelopes, each containing a personal letter and a performance bonus, individually calculated based on hours worked, tenure, and input from Denise and Rosa. No one had asked for it. No one expected it. Lena opened hers carefully and said nothing, but her eyes stayed fixed on the check for a long time. Devin folded his slowly, slid it in his pocket, and asked if he could have a copy of the letter to show his parents. Jace waited until the others had left before opening his. He didn't smile. He didn't cry, but he looked up and said, "I didn't think anyone even noticed I was here." "I did," Preston said. Jace nodded once. "You know, I got offered a job at another place last year, cleaner kitchen. Better tips. I almost took it." "Why didn't you?" "I thought maybe this place could still turn around." Preston looked around the room. The lights were dimmed, the floor was clean, the air was calm. "You were right," he said. Jace folded the letter and stood. "Guess I'll stay a while." Preston shook his hand. Neither of them said anything else. They didn't need to.